The following podcast contains spoilers for Starman. You have been warned.
What is podcast?
It's like a radio show that you can access at any time, just on the internet. Don't need to listen to the entire internet or the entire radio show.
Define radio show.
Jesus Christ, shut up.
Greetings, and welcome back to another episode of KFR News Radio. This is your host, Glenjamin Button, along with your host, Miguel Magusto.
Define Miguel Magusto.
Greetings.
This is how you doing, Glenn?
I'm doing great. I'm feeling out of this world right now, if you couldn't tell.
Apparently Jeff Bridges is the only one that can do that and not be super awkward about it.
Yeah. How did the man do it?
How did he do it? We'll get into that in just a little bit, but Glenjamin Button.
Yes.
I'm a little worried about your movie selections this week because I didn't see much on our Instagram stories.
There was a handful. It wasn't really like a, the biggest handfuls in the world, but I felt them in my hands.
Good to know.
So I actually had started out my movie week with one that I saw with you, my little lover man.
Oh.
Yes, I came over. We were very healthy men. We saw each other in the face of humanity, and then even though nobody else was around, even though one person was around besides us. And then we watched Minari.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Which was an amazing film. Very, very beautiful. The cast was excellent. I love Stephen Yeun. He's a handsome son bitch.
Yep.
And
Alan Kim is adorable.
And the most adorable little dude in the world.
Yeah.
And the story was just super excellent. I loved it. And then we got to hang out, which was also a prize of its own in my eyes.
Yeah.
And then after that, I watched Career Opportunities, which is a movie that I think I talked about for like a very brief moment. And I don't know when or why I did it, but I'm pretty sure I talked about it. It's got Jennifer Connelly and Frank Whaley, or Whaley, however you say it. It was directed by Brian Gordon. Pretty much everybody knows this movie from the one scene with Jennifer Connelly riding like a mechanical horse.
Oh, is that what that's from?
Yeah, that's the one.
The super, the most sensual a kid's ride has ever been.
Yep. And so I watched it. Had a nice little surprise with John Candy in it, so that was awesome as well.
You gotta love John Candy, especially when you're not expecting him.
And I love the reviews for this movie, because a lot of them are 5s and 4.5s and just like, and then you read the comments and it's kind of cringy, because they're like, Jennifer Connelly, white tank top, Netflix HD, you got my 5 stars, baby. It's just like,
oh my God.
Come on, buddy. But like, without all that cringe, like, I understand, like, she's a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
She's got the assets of a
and everyone's thinking what they're thinking. They're just not saying it out loud.
But with that out of the mind, this actually was kind of a fun movie.
That's good.
Frank Whaley's character is like a, what's the word for it? A pathological liar, like a 99% of the movie, and he gets himself into a situation that he can kind of talk himself out of in a way, because he's a pathological liar. I thought it was just a fun movie. They're trapped in Target. They're both like kids in their minds just doing just random shit. And I thought it was a fun little movie. I gave it like a 3.5 stars.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be worse. I'll just say that. I thought the only thing about it was just going to be Jennifer Connelly riding a horse. And I'd be like, well, I did my part.
I mean, if that's on a loop, I'll watch it for like a minute. Because, gotta change things up.
You gotta. And then last but not least, I watched, besides our movie, I watched Trees Lounge, which came out in 1996. It was actually directed and written and played in. Steve Buscemi did this little number. Never heard about the movie in my entire life. And then I was just like, well, I just watched Starman. Maybe I'll watch something else while, while I'm setting up until 5 o'clock when we do the podcasty poo.
Yeah.
And it was actually a pretty decent movie. It's about a guy who kind of struggles with alcoholism. Is always at a bar. His relationships, his friendships are kind of ruined because he's just like, this guy's always at a bar. He's always drinking, and he always makes up an excuse as to why he won't quit. He's like, oh well, if this was a thing, then maybe I would quit. And it was a pretty cool movie, but I wouldn't say it was absolutely the best thing in the world or anything like that. There's kind of a good chunk of the movie where it's like, ooh, because he gets involved with a 17-year-old at a certain point. And I'm just like kind of check out, but it goes with the character, it goes with the story, so it made sense. It's kind of just creeps you out a little bit,
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah. So besides Starman, that's all I watched. Mike, what about you sexy man beast?
Well, I watched 9 movies and a few true crime series and a series based on a true crime, and then a TV documentary about North Korea. So I watched a lot, but I'm only going to go over the movies, okay, just to save time. First movie I watched was Malcolm and Marie. That is a movie that you hailed as a great film. Mm-hmm. I did enjoy it, not nearly as much as you did.
Understandably.
My biggest problem with it is that after probably 45 minutes, it just feels repetitive. It feels like they're digging up the same shit throughout the entire time, which isn't unrealistic and not uninteresting. It's just, I feel like they could have explored a little more, but instead they just kind of rehashed the same thing over and over. But the performances are incredible. Zendaya, I believe, is what the kids are calling her, not
Good
Zendaya.
Job, you non-boomer.
Yeah. And John David Washington, they're both great. Me being a filmmaker myself, I found it hard to not agree with John David Washington, even when he was being an asshole.
Yeah.
I would be like, you're being a little bit of an asshole, but what you're saying is kind of right.
There's two different solid points of view there. One being like the persons that we are seeing John David Washington's type of view, and then one kind of being more of the normal person taking Zendaya's. I almost said Zendaya. I'm so old.
You boomer.
But from her point of view, but yeah, I can understand for sure. Like it just kind of dragging. Besides the performances,
but
stuff.
I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's saying something. I thought it was really compelling. I loved John David Washington talking about old cinema. Mm-hmm. Zendaya honestly lost me when she said no one cares about Citizen Kane. I was like, bitch. I care about Citizen Kane.
You watch yourself now, and then you turn into John David Washington when he started punching the air outside.
Yeah. Honestly, best part of the film is when he's fighting the air. I loved it. But yeah, it's a solid film. I definitely see why you loved it so much. I just had like slight problems with it. Then I watched The Dig, which is another movie that I feel like you loved.
I thought it was good.
Yeah. Oh, you rated it higher than me for sure.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I did think it was kind of a little too slow moving.
Yeah.
And kind of the thing that bothered me most, and I'm sure this wasn't said in the true story because this is based on a true story, but they think it's a Viking ship for a long time, or at least like the bad archaeologist thinks it's a Viking ship the whole time, and then they find art. And he's like, these people were people of culture. They weren't Vikings. I'm like, Vikings were people of culture.
Yeah.
Like, if a normal person had said that, it wouldn't have pissed me off. But because an archaeologist said that, who should have known better, because Vikings had so much art and culture that it just, it kind of, irritated me.
Since you yourself are also a Viking.
I'm a Viking, and I also, before I wanted to be a filmmaker, wanted to be an archaeologist, so history is very important to me.
Yeah,
and
I think the major aspect of that movie and why I liked it so much is because it was, in its depths, an archaeological film.
Yeah.
Which I think is why I liked it so much, because you don't see many of those often.
Yeah, it's the most, for technique-wise, not so much information wise, although it could be. I just don't know enough about this specific dig.
So you should have went to school.
I should have. But technique wise, with like the painstaking brushing instead of just like huge digs, it is the most accurate film of the art of archaeology. Maybe not the study. I'm sure it's pretty accurate in the study, other than that Viking comment. I just don't know enough about Anglo-Saxons to know for sure. But yeah, a really solid movie. I do suggest it. Then we watched Minari, as you already stated. So that great as usual. Still really good. I had to hold back my tears in front of you guys, so you guys respect me.
I always will.
Then I watched Edgar Wright's first film, which many of you will be like, Shaun of the Dead? You just watched that? No. I'm talking his film that he made when he was 21. He made a film called A Fistful of Fingers. which is exactly as it sounds like. It is a Western comedy, a la Edgar Wright style, and legitimately, like it's hilarious. It's got a lot of hilarious points,
as you would expect.
I don't think it aged very well, mainly because there is, and I'm sure he would agree with this, that it's bad now that there's a guy, a white man dressed up like an Indian and everything. But I mean, how many Native Americans are they having in England? Overseas in England? But again, even I just said Indian, which is not the correct term, so I apologize for that. So it's honestly, like, I'm sure he is a little embarrassed at that, but it was 95 that film came out. Not an excuse, but understandable why it happened. But other than that, it's pretty funny. You could see where he got his techniques from, like, early on. So yeah, I think technique wise, it's better than any film I've ever made, but the writing lacks some. Yeah. So Fistful of Fingers, you can actually watch that on YouTube. It's the whole film's on YouTube. And then the next one I watched is The World to Come, which is a film with Catherine Waterston and Vanessa Kirby, where they live in the mountains of New York in like the 1850s, I think it is, and they fall in love.
I would too if I was acting with Vanessa Kirby.
I would. I mean, Catherine Waterston more for me. Like Vanessa Kirby's beautiful, but like I don't know, there's something about Catherine Waterston.
Yeah. Tell us about it.
Yeah. No, but I like, honestly, I'm kind of tired of the forbidden love trope. Yeah. But this takes it to a different level where it's dark and more realistic, and not just like there's more to it than just, oh, society won't let us be together. Yeah. Like Catherine Waterston's husband reacts to their friendship a lot differently than Vanessa Kirby's husband does. I won't say any more than that. But like there's a balance, and it goes places that are heartbreaking but beautiful and tragic all at the same time. But really solid film. I really enjoyed it. That is The World to Come. Then I watched a Italian film that is nominated for a Golden Globe, I believe. I could be wrong. If it's not, it is definitely Italy's submission for the Oscar for International Film, and that is The Life Ahead. It is a film with Sophia Loren, where she kind of plays a woman who is charged with watching the kids of prostitutes while they're off working. And it follows the one kid who's the lead character in it, and she's kind of in the beginning of suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's. They don't really say what it is. I mean, my grandma died of dementia, so it kind of seemed like that. But also, they don't give it a name in the film. Yeah. But it did remind me a lot of my grandma when she started going downhill. But that was a really great film. I highly suggest it. It's it's got beautiful cinematography, more diverse than you would expect from a Italian film, because the main kid is a Senegalese orphan, and I mean that's based more on that statement's based more on my ignorance of Italian film, because I don't really see too many. But you think of like Life is Beautiful, where it's all just Italian people, and every other Italian film I've seen is just Italian people, but this has a Senegalese immigrant in it, which was really, cool to see.
Yeah, that is really nice.
Yeah, so that is The Life Ahead. Then I watched Starman. We'll get to in a minute. Then I watched a movie which I suspect you may have seen. I don't know for sure, but it's a Western film, and I know your dad loves Westerns, called The Wild Bunch. No? Okay.
I don't know. I have to look it up.
It's a film about a group of outlaws who are trying to do one last job, but it goes horribly wrong.
One last job.
And essentially they're tricked into stealing a bunch of washers instead of silver like they think it's going to be. Mm-hmm. And so then they flee to Mexico and then get caught up in things and start doing another job, and I won't get too much into it, but it's on AFI's top 100 list, so it's a very widely regarded Western film. I think it's great. It's for 1969. It is extremely bloody.
Actually, I think I might have seen this, but maybe not with my dad though.
It is really good. So if you haven't seen it, I suggest you watch it.
I'll give it a look.
Yeah, it's really good. Then I watched a film which I already discussed with you called Abducted in Plain Sight, which is a documentary. Many people have already seen it. This was kind of big on Netflix when it came out, about a girl who was abducted not once, but twice by a family friend because her parents trusted him too much. And I'm not saying that it is because they are Mormon, but all Mormons that I know on a personal level are trusting to a fault. Mm-hmm. And that mixed with they're from Idaho, the whole Idaho, you keep our doors unlocked at all times because our neighbors are, kind people mentality. That doesn't really fly here on the East Coast. You can't trust
anybody normally with that type of mentality. It has something mentally. They have something mentally. They're mental.
Well, a lot of it is that they think locking their doors is a form of submitting to the horrors of the world. Like I was watching something on the Night Stalker, which is the serial killer who like painted satanic symbols at his killings and everything in the 80s in Los Angeles, and one of the victims was her granddaughter was being interviewed. And she said that her grandmother just never locked her doors because she was from Kansas and moved out there to be closer to family. And she said, "Oh, I don't want to live in fear. You can't live in fear. I never locked my doors in Kansas. I'm not going to do it here." I understand that, Grandma, but you're in Los Angeles right now.
Yeah, this is why we had so many serial killers.
Yeah, this is different.
Just never got caught.
and ultimately, she got killed because she didn't lock her doors. Granted, with the Night Stalker, if he really wanted to, he probably would have just broken anyway.
Yeah, it's true.
But her door
being
unlocked
from them doing such a thing.
Yes, like hey, you might have heard him trying to break in and gotten your gun and fought him off.
Instead, they could just walk in and be like,
"Yeah,
howdy do,"
but
and stab you in the gut.
So I'm not going to get too much into this, but with Abducted in Plain Sight, like they trusted him. They knew that he had, a sexual infatuation with their daughter. He said he was getting help from a therapist, and part of the therapist's prescription was to spend time with her alone. They trusted that for some god awful reason.
Yeah,
and like I would understand, like I wouldn't do this, but I would understand if they're like, "Oh, you have to spend time with her. I will be there when you spend time with her, just to try to get over this." I would never do that with my kids, but I would understand someone saying that, but not to let him take her away to go horseback riding on a school night, no less, and then fuck off to Mexico for 2 weeks.
I don't necessarily plan to have kids at any point, but like that wouldn't even be my mentality to even put that person near my kid.
Oh no, I would cut off ties with them.
Supervision of seeing something.
Yeah, I would cut off ties with them so fast.
Especially like sleeping in the same bed as my child.
That was another thing. Like,
that's a huge fuck off.
Yeah, and that was part of the thing. He said, "Oh yeah, they said I need to sleep in her bed, to try to get over this." And it's just like, I understand you don't want to live in a world where you can't trust people, but guess what? You live in a world where you can't trust people.
Yeah, sadly, that's a thing.
But like the good thing about it, and again to kind of build Mormons back up, the family seems all good with each other, like they've all kind of gone through their shit and they're still a loving family. That probably would not fly literally with any other religion, but Mormonism is such strong family values that, you know, kudos to them for being able to get over that.
Yeah.
Because that's impressive that they all still love each other. Because, you know, I can't say I would be in the same boat.
No, I would be in a different state completely.
Yeah,
of mind and
exactly.
of living.
Anyway, that's all I watched for this week, other than, you know, the countless true crime shit. I've been getting into true crime for some reason. I don't know why.
Man, we all have our phases.
Yeah. Let's get into some news. I only got one quick thing of news.
Yeah, I don't really have anything at all.
So the movie Nobody, the Bob Odenkirk, John Wick-esque movie called Nobody coming out, has actually moved up a week in release.
Oh.
So it moved up from April 2nd to March 26th. Their reasoning is to not compete with Godzilla, which I completely understand.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, I think this is the first time a film has moved up instead of being pushed back since the pandemic started, and that is a huge step, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And this one advertises it is only being released in theaters. It is not going to be released on VOD for a while.
That's nice.
So, like, this is giving me some light. I kind of wanted to bring that up because our news has been very depressing lately. So Nobody is being pushed up 1 week, and I'm excited. I really want to see that. So I'm
I wouldn't mind seeing that either too.
Yeah. Well, let's make a little date.
Absolutely. We're already doing that now.
But yeah, that's all I got. You said you don't have anything, right?
No, I didn't see anything this week. I feel like I'm missing something, but it's past my head. It's
All
completely
right.
gone to the moon.
Well, let's get into Starman.
In 1977, Voyager 2 was launched into space to the outermost regions of the universe. It carried an invitation in all languages for alien life forms to visit our planet. Someone, somewhere, listened and accepted our invitation. Get ready. Someone is coming. Someone like no one she has ever known before.
Can you clone a living organism from the hair of a dead man?
We're hypothesizing a technology that's probably 100,000 years ahead of it.
He has powers we cannot imagine, and the face and touch of the man she loved.
I send greetings. What's the matter with you?
How much English do you understand?
I understand greetings in 54 planet Earth languages.
Do you seriously expect me to tell the President that an alien has landed, assumed the identity of a dead house painter, and is presently out tooling around the countryside in a hopped-up 1977 Mustang?
You're not from around here, are you?
Starman, an alien, takes the form of a young widow's husband and makes her drive him across the country. The government tries to stop them.
Yeah.
It's really to the
it's a
point.
very awkward synopsis.
Yeah, it's really to the point.
It really is.
It's directed by John Carpenter, written by Bruce A. Evans and Reynold Gideon. Stars Jeff Bridges, Karen Allen, Charles Martin Smith. We have Richard Jekyll, Robin Phelan. There's not really too many big names in the cast, honestly.
Yeah.
Just a lot of other people more than anything. But definitely the main people here are Jeff Bridges and Karen Allen.
Yeah.
There's something about we've actually watched a couple John Carpenter movies. I feel like during this podcast, and there's something that I never really noticed, but with the territory it comes with it. John Carpenter definitely has a style in all of his films, and maybe it's like his soundtrack or the cinematography that he does. But he for sure has a style, and this kept with it, even though it didn't feel like, as much of a John Carpenter film as the rest of them.
We discussed this last week when we picked it. It is rated PG, although by today's standards, I believe it would be PG-13. And this is the closest to a family film John Carpenter, to my knowledge, has ever made and probably will ever make.
Yeah.
So a little history of the PG-13 rating. So this came out December 14th, 1984. May of 1984, Indiana Jones Temple of Doom came out, and that was rated PG. And for those of you who have seen it, know that like 6-year-olds should not watch that probably.
Yeah.
It's full of like violence and gore, not gratuitous amounts, but it like, PG-13 level amounts. So that was rated PG, and that created a huge huff and puff from parents being like, oh, I took my kids to see this, even though PG stands for parental guardian, which means you should watch this before showing your kids.
Yep.
Making PG-13 completely redundant in my opinion. But it caused enough of a uproar that they created PG-13 that summer, and in August of 1984 the movie Red Dawn became the first PG-13 movie to be released. Yes, Starman back then, and since that was the first year, they were still kind of figuring out what needed to be PG-13 or what warranted PG-13. You could definitely see with Red Dawn and Temple of Doom, they were focusing more on violence at first.
Yeah.
And this isn't super violent, but it's not even like super sexual either, but it's got more sex than any Pixar movie has.
For sure.
So by today's standards, this would be PG-13.
Yeah, and this also definitely had a lot of guns going on in it too, and fire.
But like it's not like in Red Dawn you actually see people get shot. Like there's not blood or anything, but you see people get shot. In this, there's gunfire, but no one really gets shot.
Well, you say that, but a huge plot point has someone getting shot.
Oh yeah. Well, other than that. I think the point is that she doesn't die. I mean, we already said spoilers. Karen Allen gets shot by a shotgun by
the police.
by Hitchcock from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, if anyone's ever seen that show.
Nice.
Have you seen that show?
I've seen it. I just totally phased out of that.
One of the smaller characters in Brooklyn Nine-Nine is called Hitchcock, and he's just like a gross human being, and it's hilarious to see him playing a cop in this as well. Gross in a funny way. He's not like rapey, but he definitely talks thinks he's like a master of sex and everything. But yeah, what'd you think of this overall? I'm sorry, I realize I've been talking for a long time.
No, you're fine. I was just thinking how Mortal Kombat kind of did the same thing for games with the whole PG-13 thing.
Yeah.
And how over the top that went. I was lost in that for a second. But yeah, this movie, for sure, it doesn't. It's like you said, it doesn't really like feel like at least like a John Carpenter film as far as the story goes, because it's the most family thing he's ever done so far, at least that I've seen from his movies. But at the same time, with the style that I was talking about earlier, the style of the film and the soundtrack and all that, it is for sure John Carpenter film. Especially weirdly when the alien turns into Jeff Bridges, it's like a little baby.
Oh yeah,
that turns into a man, and it's
kind of reminded me of like the Thing special effects.
Exactly.
Funnily enough, you mentioned the score. John Carpenter usually does his own score, but he didn't do the score for this one.
That's interesting, because you definitely would think with all the synth and stuff like that he would.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like his score. But yeah, that moment does definitely feel like a John Carpenter when it goes from being a baby to a grown naked man.
Yes, a baby to a boy to a man that fast. I was really kind of digging this movie, to be honest with you. I was liking it more than I expected to. I saw that it obviously had a high score, but watching it, I don't know if it's just Karen Allen's like big doe eyes and me wanting to like just hug her all the time, or I don't know. But Jeff Bridges was just like so innocent playing an alien, but like he pulled it off well to make it not feel kind of robotic. Just definitely like obviously out of this world.
Yeah, it's definitely as much as I love Galaxy Quest, they definitely feel robotic.
Yeah, and
I wouldn't have it any other way, because it's kind of a slapstick of like they're mimicking the movements of people on a TV show. In this, he's watching someone in real life, and it definitely feels more like a creature just learning rather than a robot.
Yeah, so like, that whole thing was pretty cool. Him, like their journey to Arizona, to try to, and then like him learning about the human race and how to speak and how to like do things like tell people to fuck off I'm sorry, up yours and stuff like that. It was a nice little relationship that they were kind of growing together. But like,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it did get a little obviously weird toward the end.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I understand. She just lost her husband, and now she's got this alien form taking.
That looks exactly like him.
Just looks like him, and he's innocent and adorable. And he's Jeff Bridges, so so like I understand, but like at a certain point, this relationship grows in such an intense manner, and he learns how to kiss from a nice movie on the TV in the motel, and then eventually things get a little consensual, and then
Best way to put sexual relations. Things get a little
they
consensual.
get a little consensual, and then eventually you find out that Karen Allen's character actually can't have kids, and you know what? Alien Jeff Bridges is gonna fix that baby with a baby implanted in her.
The one thing I thought was pretty impressive was the progressive conversation they had about it.
Yeah.
Like they obviously have sex with consent. She thinks that she can't have a kid, so he impregnates her. But then he also says, "Hey, if you don't want it, let me know and I will stop it."
Yeah, it also
her body, her choice, man. Yeah, get it.
for sure, like we're saying impregnates, but like it was like they were like in a train, like their whole relationship grew. It wasn't just like he's like laser beamed her vagina and said, "Yes, baby."
See, that might have been what happened, and
That's
it's just
true.
a very, very gentle and loving.
Yeah,
laser beam.
He definitely says, "Hey, you're having a baby," after they just had sex. So like,
Yeah.
it's not like they just probed her and gave her a baby or anything.
No, it was, as you said,
Yeah,
things start
was-
getting consensual.
yeah. He was a human. She was a human. They did human things. Human. The human race must survive. We must repopulate, and that's what he did, but with his alien sperm. I always know how to make it weird as shit.
Yeah, it's also her husband's
Yes.
DNA because he is technically genetically her husband at that
Yeah,
point.
and he even says anything that his mind, his body, like he feels and he does everything that Jeff, if he was an actual human, that's what would be happening. So like,
Yeah.
the kid's definitely human, but he's also an alien because he's also an alien.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed throughout John Carpenter's career is that he has no respect for macho men in a good way. Like I love it because like all of the macho men characters are like completely without redeeming qualities at all.
Yeah.
And this is no exception, obviously, with the Deer Hunter. Not to be confused with Robert De Niro in The Deer Hunter. He is just kind of an asshole the whole time. Makes fun of him for not really knowing English, and
grabs his cheeks and squeezes him like he's
yeah,
like a tall Karen with a small
I've
child.
noticed he kind of does that like in his more violent movies. The macho characters are always like the first to die. Like in The Thing, the ones who are like, oh, I'm a man, I'm gonna fight this. They're always like the first ones to die.
Yeah.
And just a little trademark that I noticed. It might not be intentional, but
That's a good eye. I didn't really notice that, to be honest with you.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good eye. I like it.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out where to go from what I had spoke about to what.
Well, one thing I thought was interesting. This might be taking us even more off topic. I apologize.
No, it's-
But the Jeff Bridges using a TV like a touchscreen, I thought was pretty interesting. Whether it was a prediction of touchscreens or just him magically changing. I mean, he was magically changing the channels regardless. But I don't know if that was like, oh, this is going to be a thing one day, or he just doesn't know better, so he's just changing channels on his own. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, he definitely has some sort of like intergalactic powers, at least with electronics and stuff like that. Because he could do the touch screens with the, with the TV. He could turn the car on by just touching the key when it was in the ignition. He could win the jackpot, baby, when he was at Vegas and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And it was pretty cool trying like slowly learning a little bit about his race as far as, you know, an alien would go, but you never actually see his form or anything like that, which is kind of also pretty cool. But you always, deep down, you always wish that you could always get a glimpse of what he actually looked like. He's probably some like super ugly being, and then Karen Allen would have like been like, I slept with that.
Well, I think he was just that light energy in the beginning, the light energy that's like floating around.
Interesting.
Unless that was just like his spirit leaving his physical form. I don't know. They never really talk about it, but that's what I thought.
Yeah, I know in the beginning of the movie when he was kind of walking around, he had two eyes because they were looking through his point of view.
Yeah.
Just, you don't know. You know? You don't know.
You
always kind of long for that information. Yeah. Like, are aliens even real?
Yeah. Now you were talking about how the consensual scene, which is what it will be called from now on, was weird. It's still not the weirdest part of this movie. To me, the weirdest part of this movie is when Karen Allen talks to the agent of Homeland Security or National Security, whatever he is. He kind of helps them out because he realizes that they're not a harm, and he knows that the FBI or CIA or whatever is going to come and try to kill him. And then she just like kisses him on the mouth. Yeah. For a guy she just met, she kisses him on the mouth, which is weird. And then that somehow makes Jeff Bridges following her lead and kissing him on the mouth less weird.
Yeah,
because
it was a weird thing for her to do. But like,
it makes more sense for him to do it in that moment.
And then Jeff Bridges did it, and then it was hilarious.
Yeah. But when she kissed him, I was just like, why? Did people in the 80s just smooch each other?
Well, that's also a point that I also want to get across, is that every man in this movie kind of just does things for Karen Allen's character without even second guessing it, you know?
Well, she is the only woman in the...
You know, like, for instance...
You have to see full cast to see another woman.
Like, for instance, like, the guy driving her to the blockade, right? She's just like, you need to do something for me. And my man goes back to the car and
commits a felony.
Oh, yeah. My man lights up a gasoline tank, throws it like 20 feet away, and just explodes and then drives away.
And it's not like he's in a car that's going to blend in easily. He's in a hot rod.
My man just drove away, too. And
you're absolutely right.
Like, I sat there. I was like, did he just do that? And, like, you know, the military just chased his ass right after that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it definitely made for funny moments that these men like didn't second guess anything she said.
So, a woman's asking me to do something?
Well, might as well.
Yeah, I got nothing else going on.
Might as well throw this gas can 15 feet away.
Yeah.
Here's some shrapnel in my eye. But yeah, I mean, overall, I did like this movie. It was very funny at times watching Jeff Bridges kind of like walk around and learn things and be such a goober. But I think my favorite scene is obviously the consensual stuff. I sent you a photo of what I looked like watching that scene, and it was just me with my eyes wide open, like in bed, just like, But my favorite part was actually right after that, when the man just got done laying the pipe, the alien pipe, and then
the laser pipe.
Yeah, the laser beam pipe, and then just the grin on Jeff Bridges' face, like when the scene ends, and he's just so giddy and smiley, like he's like, I mean, it's just like any other like you're a teenager, you just had sex. My man's face was so happy that he just did that, and I've never related more to anything else in movie history than that. And that's just me, though.
So I am convinced now that you said that smile is the sole reason that Jeff Bridges was nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role in the 1985 Oscars.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you know, we know that he lost to F. Murray Abraham, obviously. Who doesn't know that? That's the real question.
Who doesn't know such a thing?
Yeah.
Weirdos.
But yeah, that's just... I like this movie, but I look at this this performance. It's not a bad performance, but I'm like, is this really in the top 5?
Yeah, I don't
performances of that year. That's a bit weird.
I don't really think so. But then again, I wasn't born yet. I was born 9 years later. What do I know?
Yeah.
I don't really have much more to talk about, I think.
Nor do I.
All right, well, let's just jump into it, you silly
Yeah,
Willy.
let's get into the judgment. As always, this has to be a, what's the word? Mutual? Unanimous. That's it.
There it is.
Unanimous decision to go onto the shelf and become a shelf boy with the likes of Apostle and Victoria. Ooh, that was
you
last
threw me
week.
for a loop there.
I did.
Ready.
Loop-de-loop and pull. So, Glenn, since this was your pick, you go first. Is Starman a shelf boy?
You know, funny enough, I'm actually, like, I'm not lying about this one. Like, I'm actually having a hard time deciding. Like, you don't really necessarily see very many, like, kind of family-friendly John Carpenter movies, and I did enjoy this. Definitely, the style felt like John Carpenter, but, you know. I had a lot of fun with the duo here, Karen Allen and Jeff Bridges. This story could have probably been, you know, a little bit better as far as, like, maybe getting more stuff, maybe, like, you know, him learning more and stuff like that. But for what we got, like, it was definitely a very fun movie. And it has me, you know, tugging at strings here because I don't know which string to pull for out of the two here. So I would like...
Well, if that helps you at all. I really enjoyed this movie. I think it's a fun movie. I think it's a movie people should watch. But it's not incredible.
Yeah, it's not overwhelmingly awesome. You know?
Yeah, there's not enough different about it for me to be like, oh, this is really different. John Carpenter doing a slightly family film is not like, ooh, shelf-worthy. So I'm going to say no just because I am... You know, I enjoyed it, but it's just, I feel like it could have been better.
You know, I feel that, cousin. I do. No, I'm pretty much feel the same way. I do recommend this to people as far as, like, you know, it's like a nice little family film, but, like, as far as being on a shelf or anything, like, I'm not gonna probably pick it off from time to time. Like, this movie's amazing.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
So, Starman does not make it onto the shelf with the likes of Victoria and Handmaiden. Ooh, I switched it up again.
You keep getting me.
I keep getting you. That brings us to our plugs for this week. Glenjamin Button, what is your plug for this week?
Well, I bring some sad news. I really do. I do. As at least most of you know, I think yesterday, Daft Punk has announced that they are basically retiring. They're splitting up.
Is that why I kept seeing Daft Punk everywhere?
Yeah, that's exactly why. So after 28 years of being the hit group, you know, of tech music and stuff like that, or whatever genre you want to label it as, they're splitting up. Whether or not they go separate ways and do their own things, who knows? But I think they might be done. But they put out a little epilogue, a little going away present. To fans, at least announcing that they are departing from each other. And honestly, not a word is said in this video, but it speaks volumes. It speaks volumes because it's so sad. And it's on YouTube. It's called Daft Punk Epilogue, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just really heartbreaking because I love their music, you know? At least I know a good portion of people really do.
I am indifferent to it, but I know the feeling of when a group, musical group or artist you really like is breaking up. So, yeah, I feel you. So Daft Punk Epilogue, that is on YouTube. That is Glenn's plug. Glenn, I'm going to need your help for my plug.
Okay.
So I need you to pick between music or movies.
I feel like we've been talking about music a lot lately.
Okay.
So maybe movie?
Okay. So that gets rid of 1 out of 3 choices.
Okay.
Should I go old school or new school?
What's wrong with old, baby?
Go with old?
Old is just a number.
It's funny. You probably picked the most boring of all my plugs, but that's fine. So my plug is just to remind everyone that Netflix still ships DVDs. There are thousands, if not millions, probably just thousands, of movies out there that are not available for streaming, and you have to pay like $4 to watch. Or
hashtag not an ad.
Or not an ad. Or you could subscribe to their DVD service for like, I think it's like $10 a month and get on average one a week, so 4 a month, and see all the movies that you that would otherwise cost you. What's 4 times 4? That's 16.
Yep.
That costs you $16, and you only get it for $10.
Exactly.
And so that is their DVD.com service, which is still part of Netflix, and people think that it's no longer a thing, but it is a thing.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool actually that they're still doing that. 'Cause
Yeah.
I remember the old days in the late 2000s when my mom would just get a new DVD every week to see a movie.
And we're a long way away if it ever does come back to like a Blockbuster store type coming back. I don't think it will come back. I would love it to.
So either.
I would love it to, but I don't. This is the next best thing.
Yeah, we're all introverts now.
Yes,
we
we're
don't
all
really
introverts.
Go out.
So yes, DVD.com, which is a Netflix DVD service. It's their old service, just on a different website. But that is my plug for this week.
All right.
I would have had to spend $5 to watch The Wild Bunch if I didn't get it on Netflix.
There you go. Look at that.
Yeah. So those are our plugs for this week. That brings us to our assignment for next week. It is Streaming Roulette Week.
Yep.
It's been doing things the past few times we've done it.
It's been going spastic the last few weeks
Yes,
here.
so we are going to see, as for those of you who are not aware how this works, we spin the Netflix roulette wheel 3 times, and we pick streaming roulette. Sorry, streaming roulette. We spin it 3 times, and then we pick which of those 3 we would rather watch. The streaming sites that could be available are Prime Video, Apple TV Plus, the Criterion Channel, Disney Plus, Hulu, and Netflix, which I understand why they expanded it from just Netflix roulette.
There's a lot now.
Yeah, so without any further ado, here comes our first spin. One Baba. It looks like a Japanese film.
64?
Yes.
Okay. Nice little classic. Oh, wow.
Nice.
A horror drama.
Horror drama from Japan, directed by Kaneto Shindo, written by Kaneto Shindo. It is got a 8.0 out of 10 on IMDb. No Metacritic score, but it's an old movie, so I'm not surprised. Hold on, let me see where we would need to watch this, because you might need
HBO Max, and I do not have that.
We have it is on a Criterion Channel as well.
Oh, sweet succulent lord.
Sweet succulent lord. So that's Onibaba. 2 women kill samurais and sell their belongings for a living. While one of them is having an affair with their neighbor, the other woman meets a mysterious samurai wearing a bizarre mask. This sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I really like that one so far.
Yeah, so at the very least, we got one good one. But let's see what else we can spin. Spin number 2. Cold Water.
Well, hold on. 94, so we're good on that.
2013.
Never mind.
It is a drama thriller. It is available on Amazon Prime. Directed by Vincent Grashaw and written by Vincent Grashaw and Mark Penny. A teenage boy is sent to juvenile reform facility in the wilderness. As we learn about the tragic events that sent him there, his struggle becomes one for survival with the inmates, counselors, and the retired war colonel in charge. That sounds interesting too. We got 2 interesting ones so far. So spin numero trio. Don Verdeen. I have seen this one. I can tell you it is the directors of Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh.
And Nacho Libre.
It's got Sam Rockwell.
It's got Sam Rockwell and Jermaine Clement. It is directed by Jared Hess and written by Jared Hess and Jerusha Hess. Starring Sam Rockwell, Amy Ryan, Will Forte, Danny McBride, Jermaine Clement, a whole bunch of people. Don Verdeen is about a self-professed biblical archaeologist who has fallen on hard times, starts to bend the truth in order to continue inspiring the faith. That one is available on, let's see, Netflix. That is on Netflix. So those are our 3 choices. Honestly, after a few weeks where we had to cheat the system, we got a few good picks here. So out of all of them, Don Verdeen, Cold Water, and Onibaba, which one would you rather watch?
Honestly, Onibaba.
I am 100% on board. That's the one I was hoping you would pick.
Yeah, the other ones don't sound that bad, but We definitely.
How can we
got
pass
a-
up an 8 out of 10 rating?
Yeah, we got a really nice draw on that one.
And
which is
it's
really
on Criterion Channel, which means it's at least classically good and not like we might not like it, but a lot of people like it enough to be on Criterion Channel
for sure. Yeah.
So we are going to watch Onibaba on Criterion Channel. If you don't have Criterion Channel but you have HBO Max, it is on there. Both of those, I believe, you can get a week subscription. Actually, HBO Max you might not be able to
I don't
anymore.
think you can.
But there's always rental options as well. So that is going to be our selection for next week. Thank you everyone for listening. As always, you can check out our website, www.keystonefilmreview.com. On Instagram, we are Keystone_film_review, Twitter, Keystone_film, Facebook, Keystone Film Review, YouTube, Keystone Film Review, and on Letterboxd, I am Mike, KFR.
And I am Glenn, KFR.
And that will do it until next week when we define Onibaba.
What is Onibaba?
That's what we'll find out. Goodbye.
Goodbye.